Rip Off Britain in 45 minutes. New Defenders UK first.
All around us, in every part of the UK, are skilled teams of eagle-eyed men and women, working alongside the police to keep us safe. They're the people on the front line, tackling the hazards that place us in danger.
As a family, life is so different. It's just absolutely heartbreaking just to know that he's not here.
They're cracking down on those who threaten our families.
My mum was getting somewhere in the region of 30 scam letters delivered every day.
They're protecting us from new dangers that lurk online.
As soon as I transferred the money and I saw my account say zero, I knew.
These men and women make up the UK's enforcement teams, our defenders. Today, in a shocking case, our defenders crack down on the ringleaders of a trafficking and modern slavery gang.
These two exploited so many people, stole so much money and made their lives hell.
They catch a young cowboy builder charging thousands for unfinished work.
Everything was just a mess, to be honest with you. Things were blowing off it, things were falling off it. It was heartbreaking to look out of that kitchen window and look at that every day.
And they jail a dealer selling deadly, toxic diet pills.
The reality is there is no safe dosage of DMP. One tablet could prove fatal.
Early morning in a quiet residential street in Bristol. These young men and women are being kept as prisoners and forced into unpaid labour.
If the general public were aware of what these guys were living in, they would be shocked and amazed that it was still happening in modern day civilised society. It's on our doorsteps. These places are in houses within our normal estates within the cities and towns of this country.
They're the latest victims of a cruel human trafficking and modern slavery network, run by this man, Maros Tankos, and his partner in crime, Joanna Gamulska.
I think modern slavery is one of those crimes that is hidden underneath.
Mark Morrison is a senior investigator with the National Crime Agency.
As an agency, we take it very, very seriously. And from a personal point of view, my previous role before I joined the agency was I was on a human trafficking unit. And so for a number of years, it opened my eyes to the level of depravity that people are prepared to go to treat people.
Mark is our defender.
I believe that the National Crime Agency and those of us on the operations and investigation side, our role is all about protecting the people of this country. We've all signed on the dotted line to protect people and to safeguard the most vulnerable communities in our country, and so that's what our role should be.
In 2017, Mark and his team got a tip-off from the authorities in Slovakia. Maros Tankos was using links with orphanages to recruit scores of vulnerable young people and then traffic them into the UK.
He purported to be a benefactor to those orphanages. As the kids got to adulthood and they left the orphanage, they were pretty destitute, and so it was at that point he offered them an opportunity of a lifetime to come and live in England.
Tankos promised his victims a better future, but they were forced into a life of servitude, working unpaid at a car wash. This was exploitation for commercial gain, the definition of modern slavery.
That set the ball rolling. We started our intelligence gathering. We started speaking to our colleagues in Slovakia.
The National Crime Agency launched a covert operation, staking out the three-bedroom property used by Tankos and Gamulska.
We set up a surveillance operation that centred on Mr. Tankos and Ms. Gamulska at Tankos' home address of Brentry Lane. And we also set up surveillance on the car wash so that we could see whether the information that we were given was accurate, and we could also try and identify who the potential victims were and how many there were.
Over several weeks, the surveillance team built up evidence of a trafficking and modern slavery operation involving scores of victims.
When we set up a surveillance operation, we have to look at what is available to us. In this case, Mr. Tankowski and Mr. Gamolska were under mobile surveillance, and we were able to see them coming out of their home address. Follow them through to their car wash, where we had further surveillance on, and so we could see what they were doing. We could see how they were controlling the individuals. Tankos was the enforcer, was the one that was the horrible one that was always making them do things. And he would take his workers either in his own car or Gamolska's car to the car wash, and they would charge the public from £5 upwards for a wash and clean of their car. All that money went to Tankos and Gamolska.
After working at the car wash during the day, their victims were sent out to do other jobs at night. Wages were paid straight into their bank accounts, but those accounts, like every aspect of their lives, were controlled by Tankos and Gamolska.
We could see money going into those accounts from these companies that we have surveilled our victims working at. And we can see money going into them as wages. What we also then saw was the money coming straight out again.
Their wages were withdrawn by Tankos and Gamolska and blown on second-hand cars or gambling at casinos.
When you consider that Tankos and Gamolska had no legitimate income, their lifestyles must have been funded by the money that was being earned by the victims or the slaves. All of their money was being used by Tankos and Gamolska.
In total, they'd deprived their victims of an estimated £1.2 million in wages.
The surveillance is telling us that we have a case. It is clear that there are a number of individuals that are potential victims of human trafficking. In effect, these guys were working up to 20 hours a day, getting no money, no benefits at all, and they were absolutely exhausted.
Later, inside the house described by victims as the gate to hell,
it makes me think there's some very, very immoral people out there. They are greedy, they are prepared to treat people worse than your pet animals. You try and keep the anger down, but you think, why are you doing this to another human being?
Millions of us spend a great deal of time and money trying to get in shape and lose weight. Whether through exercise, diet, or the latest miracle weight loss product. Some methods work better than others, but there's one product that's extremely dangerous and could cost you your life. These pills contain a highly toxic substance called dinitrophenol, or DNP. Selling them for human consumption is an offence under the Food Safety Act.
Anybody that consumes DNP is at serious risk of harm and potentially even death.
DNP has been linked to 33 fatalities in the UK, including that of university student Eloise Parry. Eloise had been trying to lose weight when she ordered the pills online.
She was concerned about her appearance. I think, like every young person out there, how she looked mattered to her.
We spoke to Eloise's mother, Fiona Parry, in 2018.
She did worry about her weight. She did want to fit what she saw as the perfect image, and that was part of where things started to unravel and go wrong for her.
Eloise was rushed to hospital after taking 8 pills containing DNP. Her body was dangerously overheating.
I got a call about 3 o'clock in the afternoon that Sunday. It was a nurse who said, They needed to see me about Eloise. When I got in there, the doctor said, I'm afraid it's not good news. There's no easy way to tell you this, but she's died.
Eloise had bought the deadly diet pills from a website run by this man, Bernard Rebello.
I have my own little acronym for DNP. I call it deadly noxious poison, because that's what it did to her. The way that it had already destroyed her body internally. It just couldn't take any more. You know, that was it. She was gone.
Rebello was jailed for manslaughter, thanks to our defenders.
This was a day I never thought I'd see. The fact that they found the people responsible, brought them to court, and flagged up to everybody who will listen just how serious this is.
Incredibly, since then, the illegal sale of these drugs has continued here in the UK and around the world.
There is an illegal trade in DNP for human consumption, and the motivation for those that are trading in it is for financial gain.
Andrew Quinn is Deputy Head of the National Food Crime Unit, part of the Food Standards Agency. Andrew is our defender.
Those that are selling this toxic chemical do not care about individuals' health and welfare. They only care about the profits. And the reality is there is no safe dosage of DNP. One tablet could prove fatal.
5 years after Eloise's death, in June 2020, our defenders were contacted by the American Food and Drug Administration. The FDA had worrying information about an online trader with the username Husto275.
The American authorities, conducting online research, identified Husto275 as being the username responsible for selling DNP in large quantities.
Husto275 was operating an illegal website on the dark web, part of the internet that enables users to remain anonymous. The website was selling DNP as a weight loss product for bodybuilders.
At the time the American authorities first identified Husto275, the only thing that they knew was that that username and that website was being managed from somebody based in the United Kingdom. They shared the intelligence with us, the National Food Crime Unit, and asked if we would make further inquiries to try and identify the real person behind that identity.
Using intelligence data, Andrew's team identified the person behind the username Husto275 as Jack Finney. Finney was running his illegal online business from his home near Northwich in Cheshire.
Jack Finney, the real person behind Husto275, was an international global trader in DNP. He had a significant business.
Later, our defenders discovered DNP, steroids, and prescription medicines worth nearly £30,000.
It was clear that he was operating predominantly from his bedroom and his ensuite bathroom. In fact, there was so much drugs, DNP, paraphernalia, that it was almost impossible for him to use the ensuite bathroom for its legitimate purpose.
This is Morgan Lewis. He might look young, but don't be fooled. He's got plenty of experience ripping off unsuspecting families, conning them out of tens of thousands of pounds.
The list of excuses that the man gave to people was incredible. There was clearly no real intention of ever finishing a job or, you know, doing what he was contractually paid to do.
Mandy Evans from Llandyssil, in West Wales, has ridden horses since she was a child.
My grandfather used to throw me up on the wild horses at the age of 5. So I learnt how to sit bareback pretty quick. Yeah, he taught me how to ride the old-fashioned way. I've always liked the show jumping, the showing side of horses. They're just exquisite animals to me.
Mandy has always dreamed of opening her own riding school. And in 2020, she found the perfect place to do it.
We bought Ringernos 2.5 years ago. It was just a house. So my plan was to build my dream and to look out the kitchen window and have a block 10 stables and a riding school by the side of it.
Mandy had her vision. Now all she needed was to make it a reality. She found local builder, 23-year-old Morgan Lewis, advertising on Facebook. He seemed to have the right sort of experience.
The pictures he had up on social media were of mainly stables, and to be fair, they did look really good. My daughter thought, well, he's a youngster starting, look at his work, give him a chance.
Mandy contacted Lewis and invited him to quote for the job.
I rang him and he said, I'll come out straight away, give me 2 days. And he came out. He had a suit on, he had all the paperwork.
Lewis quoted £14,500 for the job, including $5,000 up front to pay for materials.
It was a lot of money, but we had a few quotes of other people and they were roughly the same. But I liked the work, the pictures that Morgan showed me was, you know, top-class stables.
Mandy paid the £5,000 deposit. She was one step closer to achieving her dream.
I was getting excited. My stables are going up. My horses are going to be in the winter. And I was on cloud nine, to be honest with you.
At first, it was difficult for Mandy to see what the £5,000 deposit was being spent on.
He sort of brought one trailer load, half a trailer load of a few panels, and I did make a comment, are you having a laugh? You know, you've had all this money and you've given me £200 worth of wood sitting on the slab. And he promised me there'd be more loads come in and he was going to get lorries here and they'd be all full. It never happened.
Progress over the next few months was slow. The only thing that wasn't letting up was Morgan Lewis's constant demands for more and more money.
He kept on wanting more money. Somebody else had done him over on another job, hadn't paid him, so I was paying him all the time up to the 14,000.
Almost a year into the job, work was nowhere near finished, and Mandy's dream was in tatters. The stables were open to the elements and were totally unusable.
With the wind we get you, it was rocking, it was like a sailboat. So everything was just a mess, to be honest with you. Nothing was straight there. And things were blowing off it, things were falling off it. And it was heartbreaking to look out of that kitchen window and look at that every day.
Mandy begged Lewis to either finish the job or return her money so she could finish it herself.
I was crying on the phone to him. He was promising me on his mother's life he was going to come to me. And when somebody says that to me, I believe it.
But Morgan Lewis didn't keep his promises. Instead, he gave Mandy a list of excuses. He even told her he was at the hospital when he was actually on another job. On another occasion, he sent a video claiming his car had broken down. Alison Farrer is lead officer for consumer education at the Chartered Trading Standards Institute.
Quite often, these excuses sound plausible. They sound genuine. They sound like something that would happen to you and me. You know, children get sick and grandmothers need lifts, and we've all been in that situation ourselves. And it's really hard for us to tell, isn't it, whether this builder, this guy working for us, is telling us the truth, or is he just spinning us a yarn? Is he working somewhere else? Is he off down the pub with the money that we've given him for the materials? It's really, really difficult to tell.
It was a long haul of nearly a year of constant lies.
In one last attempt to salvage things, Mandy gave Lewis an ultimatum.
I gave him one last chance. I said, that's it. If my stables aren't up by the end of November, where my horses need to come in, I am going to training standards.
It's hard to reach a cut-off point in your head around, this is enough now, I need to stop this work and cut my losses. Nobody really knows when that point is. And my advice would be come and speak to trading standards and find out what your rights are so that you can work out how to move forward from there.
Lewis responded by blocking Mandy. She couldn't get through to him by phone, by WhatsApp, or by text. There was no way of contacting him.
That's when reality hit to me. Hang on a minute, he's taken all my money. And I was, crying a lot at that time.
Mandy had given Lewis the full cost of the job, £14,500, but she had little to show for it.
He's taken everything, what I've worked through all my life, off me. You know, I've got to work now another 5-6 years just to get the riding school, where I should have had it by now. He has absolutely crushed me. He has crushed me to the ground. And it's, he's just, I just haven't got no words for him.
Later, our defenders find 19 more victims and bring Morgan Lewis to justice.
We had so many victims come forward because they feel so angry. He never set out to make the situation good. No compensation was offered, so like a custodial sentence was appropriate.
Earlier, we saw how scores of vulnerable young people were being trafficked into the UK, kept as prisoners, and forced into unpaid labour.
In effect, these guys were working up to 20 hours a day, getting no money, no benefits at all, and they were absolutely exhausted.
Their lives were being controlled by this ruthless couple, Maros Tankos and Joanna Gamulska. After a 3-month surveillance operation, investigators with the National Crime Agency were ready to make their move.
Having secured all this evidence, the senior investigating officer then makes a decision that we're going to go and arrest the 2 individuals, and we obtain warrants to go and do that.
Mark and his team executed search warrants at 2 addresses, including this one. Tankos and Gamulska were arrested, and 5 vulnerable young men were rescued. Their evidence would be crucial.
It was obvious to our witness care team and our specialist interviewers that we had to take it very, very slowly and carefully dealing with them. So they were taken from the house and taken to a place of safety, where they were spoken to by those teams, whilst the rest of us carried on and did a systematic search of that house.
The victims had been confined to their rooms, unable to contact the outside world, and kept in overcrowded conditions. Some describe the property as the gate to hell.
There was multiple mattresses on the floor. They were all living on top of each other. There was a double bedroom which had 4 bunk beds in. Conditions of that room in particular was atrocious. It was just disgusting. I've seen, unfortunately, too many times stuff like this, but some of our staff were trainees, first time they ever been into houses like this, and they were amazed at how these people were made to live. An eye-opener for anybody that's never encountered it. It makes me think there's some very, very immoral people out there. They are greedy, they are prepared to treat people worse than your pet animals. You try and keep the anger down, but you think, why are you doing this to another human being?
Documents belonging to many of the victims were found during a search of the living room.
In that living room is a cupboard, and in that cupboard are multiple victim IDs, Slovakian ID cards, bank cards, national insurance cards. Those cards were always controlled by Tankos and Gomulska, so they had no control, they couldn't go anywhere.
In total, 42 victims were interviewed by specialist officers. Some had been held for up to 7 years. They were either too scared to leave or were locked in.
It was clear from all the inquiries that we made, all the investigations, all the paperwork, and all of the testimony of these individuals that the control over these people was total.
Tankos even took over their Facebook accounts and sent messages saying they were enjoying a good life.
Psychologically, physically, the control was there at all times.
Following a harrowing 3-month trial at Bristol Crown Court, Tankos and Gomulska were found guilty of modern slavery and human trafficking offences. On June the 22nd, 2022, they were jailed for a combined total of 25 years.
A couple who kept 40 vulnerable people from Slovakia as slaves and made them work for free at a car wash business in Bristol have been sent to jail. Bristol Crown Court had heard that they used the proceeds to fund their gambling addiction.
Tankos and Gomulska were told that their victims represented cash value to them. They treated them like cattle on a farm. Today, Tankos was sentenced to 16 years in prison and Gomulska to 9. They were told they would serve at least 2/3 of that behind bars.
29 victims gave evidence about the abuse they'd suffered at the hands of Tankos and Gomulska.
We had a number of men and women that put their hand up to say, I'm prepared to go through it, to be cross-examined, to give my evidence. If you consider the pain, both physically and mentally, that these people had gone through, to put themselves through it again, I take my hat off to them. I think they were very, very brave.
Their plight was reported on BBC Points West.
We are protecting this victim's identity and have changed her voice as she's a victim of slavery. She was trafficked here in her teens and it took her 5 years to escape.
We had no life. For example, if we wanted to go to the shop, we had to let him know. I knew I could not leave. There was nothing I could do. I had to stay. We had no money. We had no ID. We had to stay.
It was a common theme across the stories they all said, consistent but shocking. These two exploited so many people, stole so much money and made their lives hell. The judge clearly took their victim impact statements into account when he came to his conclusions.
There's an estimated 10,000 trafficking and forced labour victims living in the UK.
There are so many bad people that are prepared to live off the woes of people less fortunate themselves. If you're going to go into a car wash and get 4 people wash a car for a £5, you've got to start thinking, are they being paid right? Are they being looked after right? And especially if those individuals never have any contact with you, eye contact, they can't speak English. You've got to start thinking to yourself, is everything right here? If it's too cheap or seems to be too good to be true, there's going to be a good reason behind it why.
Mark is determined to disrupt trafficking and modern slavery networks and to bring the people behind this cruel trade to justice.
Tracking these people down is one of our main focuses. It's abhorrent. We are there to look after human beings. That's our #1 job. Whatever it is, we got to safeguard the people. And so the agency will continue to chase and track down and bring to justice the people that are prepared to treat human beings like they are.
Earlier, Jack Finney was identified as the man behind an illegal online trade in deadly diet pills containing DNP. Our defenders were ready to make their move.
It's really important to act quickly when we're dealing with DNP suppliers. Any single pill that they sell is capable of causing somebody serious harm or, in fact, prove fatal.
Finney was running his illegal business from his home near Northwich in Cheshire. Andrew's team, alongside the police, executed a search warrant at Finney's home address. Large quantities of DNP powder and bodybuilding steroids were discovered.
It was clear that he was operating predominantly from his bedroom and his ensuite bathroom. In fact, there was so much drugs, DNP, paraphernalia, that it was almost impossible for him to use the ensuite bathroom for its legitimate purpose.
Finney had customers across Europe, North America, and around the world. Receipts showed he'd sold £17,000 worth of DNP and other illegal commodities in just 3 weeks.
We found receipts for DNP that he had sold to Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, and clearly all over Europe as well. So this was a truly global enterprise.
Legitimate food packaging was also found at the property. This was used to disguise his illicit trade.
So Jack Finney was clearly aware of the risks of DNP. He went to great lengths to hide his criminality in that he tried to avoid capture and detention of his products that he was shipping by concealing them and marketing them as either chocolate brownies or other snacks. So here's an example of stickers that were recovered from Finney's home address. This particular one is described as Soul Food Collective, organic snacking. Now, we clearly know that Finney was not involved in any sort of legitimate food business, so it's anticipated that these were once again going to be used to try and foil attempts of colleagues at the border to stop them identifying and tracing DNP sales.
Nearly £30,000 worth of DNP, steroids and prescription medicines were seized. Jack Finney was arrested. He initially denied supplying DNP, but the evidence against him was overwhelming.
Investigators painstakingly put together a substantial case against Jack Finney, including evidence that he'd been supplying DNP across the world and making lots of money from this. So when he was invited in for a further interview, he went on to make full and frank admissions, knowing full well the weight of the evidence against him that had been gathered by the Food Crime Unit.
Finney had been buying DNP powder in bulk from China, putting it into capsules in his bedroom, then shipping it around the world.
I would describe the actions of Jack Finney and of others who are trading in DNP as being really, really reckless and not genuinely caring about the harm or potential harm that they can cause to the consumers of this highly toxic chemical that he is selling.
In December 2021, Jack Finney was jailed for 2 years, 4 months.
It was a fantastic result for the National Food Crime Unit. It was quite an exciting time for the team, who could be justifiably proud of the weight of evidence that we gathered, which in effect forced Finney's hand and forced him to enter a guilty plea.
Finney was also ordered to pay back £23,000 of his profits, or face more time in jail.
And that's the money that is readily available to him to hand over. So that is the cash that was seized during the search warrant, that is the cryptocurrency that was seized during the search warrant, and it also requires him to sell his car. He's got 3 months to pay that £23,000 back, or else he could face a further additional 8 months in prison and still face the debt when he comes out of prison.
Fiona Parry appreciates the relentless determination of our defenders to catch criminals selling DNP.
It's got to save lives, it's got to make a difference. There's no two ways about it. Preventing these people from operating, that's the first step to keeping people safe, to preventing further deaths.
We treat it as a really high priority. Food needs to be safe. If it's not safe, you should not be selling it. Anybody that is doing that, we will be tracking you down and looking to prosecute.
We've seen how Mandy Evans paid this baby-faced builder £14,500 for stables, but all he did was this.
With the wind we get you, it was rocking, it was like a sailboat. It was heartbreaking to look out of that kitchen window and look at that every day.
But Mandy wasn't the only one. Morgan Lewis had conned 20 victims out of tens of thousands of pounds. For our defenders, Mandy's story is a common one.
So unfortunately, cases involving like poor workmanship, rogue traders doing building work, I would love to say that they don't happen that often, but it is pretty much a weekly occurrence.
Sarah Smith is the Financial Crime and Intelligence Manager for Shared Regulatory Services, covering Cardiff, Bridgend and the Vale of Glamorgan. Sarah is our defender.
Some of the cases that we've dealt with over the past few years, the loss and the detriment, I mean, as a total, is incredible, but then individually, the impact just can't be underestimated.
Investigation into Morgan Lewis began as soon as our defenders received a complaint.
So we had one complaint that came in directly to us, someone that knew the department, and then as a result of that, obviously a lot of his business was obtained via Facebook, and then we were able to identify a number of other complainants on Facebook and basically encourage those people to come forward and complain as well.
Sarah identified 20 victims across South Wales, all conned by Morgan Lewis.
The impact was considerable because the demographic of consumers was varied. We've got business people, we've got kind of single mums, NHS staff, so people that don't necessarily have thousands of pounds to lose, all the time and effort to waste on what he did to them.
In every case, there was a clear pattern of behaviour.
So most of our consumers actually contracted for kind of larger scale outbuildings and garden work. He'd give them, in our opinion, a lower than average price and quote. And then if they agreed, then he'd ask for quite a high deposit, around 50% in some cases. And then that deposit was allegedly for materials.
Once he'd got the deposit, communication with Lewis broke down. Materials weren't delivered, and little work was done. Then, just as in Mandy's case, the excuses started.
It was why he couldn't continue, like the weather, or he'd have family emergencies, or, car issues. The list of excuses that the man gave to people was incredible.
Sarah pieced the cases together on a timeline. It was clear Morgan Lewis had no intention of completing the work. His only aim was taking victims' money.
And we just had this constant overlapping of taking money off one, giving excuses to those that have already had the deposits taken, and then continually taking on new work as well. There was clearly no real intention of ever finishing a job or doing what he was contractually paid to do.
Lewis left behind a trail of half-finished work. In just 18 months, he'd conned 20 victims out of around £50,000. Sylvia Rook is the lead officer for fair trading at the Chartered Trading Standards Institute.
There are different ways in which these rogue traders work. In this particular instance, he had no intention really of doing work, but what he would do is look reputable. He'd come along, he'd talk the talk, he'd say he needed a deposit for the part, go on to the next person. And so each person was being given the same story, and each person was having the same degree of sympathy for what was happening to him. But actually what he was doing was not doing a job, he was just conning people out of money.
Lewis's victims took to social media to warn others about his con. All 20 agreed to help our defenders with the investigation.
We had so many victims come forward because they feel so angry about what's happened to them that they are prepared to give us evidence and potentially go to court if they need to, because that's not necessarily an easy thing for anyone to do.
when you're having work done, quite often it's a dream. When it doesn't happen, your dream is shattered. And that doesn't just affect your money, it affects your whole life. And adds to that the fact you feel stupid because you feel you should have trusted somebody, you shouldn't have given them money. And that's another area that these traders play on. They play on the fact you feel ashamed, that it's your fault, and therefore you don't want to tell anyone. And if you don't tell anyone, then nobody can do anything to help you.
Morgan Lewis pleaded guilty to fraud and unfair trading. In February 2022, he was jailed for 1 year and 4 months.
And I think that was reflective of, obviously, the scale and the loss involved in the case, but also the fact that he never paid any, refunds to anyone. He never set out to, make the situation good, and that, no compensation was offered. So, like a custodial sentence was appropriate.
The fight for compensation is ongoing. But for now, justice has been done.
But the most important thing for us is the victim. Hopefully, they feel that, we've done a good job and helped them as best as we can.
Mandy's stables are now finished, thanks to the support and hard work of her family.
My uncle came with his friend, my husband. He took a week off to help them as well, and they did. They finished the stables in January. My horses love the stables. They're calm in there, so they're happy. I'm happy.
The work of our defenders has brought Mandy the closure she needed.
They've done a fantastic job. It's not just prosecuting Morgans, it was their support for me as well, the respect they had for me and what I was going through. I wasn't just a number to them. I was a human being. They were very supportive of me, and I've got a lot of thank you to give them.
Across the UK, our defenders are out there, protecting our families, our homes, even our dreams.
I find it very satisfying to know that I've done my job well, and as a result of that, the public has been protected and a perpetrator of a crime has been penalised for that crime.
Keeping us safe, fighting to keep the most vulnerable among us free from exploitation, and ensuring that justice prevails.
I think it's fitting that, having deprived these men and women of their liberty for so long and controlled their lives, they're now actually going to be facing loss of their liberty for such a long period and having their lives controlled by other people.
A new two-parter this week to join the full collection on iPlayer. Silent Witness, press red now. Here tonight, BBC One at 9, new Sort Your Life Out with Stacey Solomon. It's surprising just how emotional it can be.